We are happy to be here. I'm here today with Ms. Ross, and we hope you are doing well. We hope you're practicing. We hope your practice is being a refuge for you. So we are here to do the Buddhist service. I'll let Ms. Ross say hello as well, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Shepherd. Just really grateful to be able to be here in this way with you again. Trying to feel some connection, as we're all trying to do in this world through this electronic media, but just, you know, reminding you that we are part of a sangha together. We're practicing together through these electronic sessions, but also, you know, we're part of a bigger community, and it's easy to forget that sometimes when we feel like we're isolated. But this endeavor that we do here is to try to remind all of us that we're still connected. So just grateful to be here.
So we'll do the chant, and then I'll go and light the candles and incense, and then we'll have a guided meditation. Following the guided meditation, we'll have some reflections, and then we'll have our closing. So I'll post the chant. It's the same chant we have been doing, so that hopefully you are getting familiar with it. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs.
So we'll transition into meditation, partially guided, but just a chance to really get grounded and really present with being together. So the bell will transition us into the meditation. And with the fading of the bell, we take our awareness from hearing to just being really present with the sense of being in this body, just awareness of being in the body. So as we're meditating, the first thing we can do is really get grounded in the sense of the body and feel the body as both grounded, being supported in the chair, or if you're standing, being supported by the ground. But just really feeling that base of that support for your body. And from there, feeling a long spine. So upright spine, that's the head is balanced on the spine so that the spine is where the energy flows, and we can feel the alertness come to the mind and the body when the spine is erect, long. So we want to have this balance of alertness and erectness, but not tight. So it needs to be relaxed yet upright. And so we're finding that balance, just like we try to find balance in everything. Where's that middle place of ease and alertness in the body, grounded, alert, relaxed. And then we can bring our awareness to just the sense of the mind resting in the body, just like the body is resting on its support. Feeling the mind and the body, however we sense that. A lot of times we tend to think of the mind as where the brain is, but the mind is connected to all the sensations in the body. So be open to the possibility of the mind being throughout the body. So sensing the mind resting in the body, however we perceive it. And we may notice that thoughts may try to come in as we're trying to sense the body, and that's normal too. The mind wants to think, it wants to compare, it wants to judge. It's what the mind does. And we can just notice if the mind is doing that, or maybe the mind's sleepy, maybe with it relative quiet, it's starting to go to sleep, be dull. And we can notice that too. And then we can bring a little bit of energy and awareness and intention to give the mind something to do, to make it more unified with this experience of being in this body. So we can notice the sensation in the body, again, the groundedness, or maybe you notice the sensation of breathing in, breathing out. Whatever the sensation is in the body that allows you to feel the sense of this mind knowing this experience of this body right here, right now. And the mind may wander, may lose focus. We start thinking, and we just gently remind ourselves to come back to being aware of this mind resting in this body. And noticing where the mind is. Is it still present with the body? Or has it gone off thinking? Wherever the mind is, you can just notice how it is. It's the general sense. If it's gone off thinking and planning, does it feel calm or does it feel agitated? If it's present with the experience of the body, maybe the breath, does it feel calm? Or is it getting so calm that it's dull and sleepy? So we can just notice how the mind is and then reset our intention to come back to awareness of this body, the experience of being in this body right here, right now. Noticing where the mind is, how the mind is. Resetting our intention to be present with this experience of the mind, knowing the experience of this body right here, right now. Where is the mind? How is the mind? Resetting our intention to be present with this experience, this body, this breath. And we keep doing this over and over again, trying to train the mind to have some stability, to be able to come back and pay attention, to maybe find a place of ease and note if the mind notices when it's calm. Maybe it would invite itself to go back to that place rather than going off and being distracted by thoughts and plans and worries and anxieties. So can we notice any amount of stability, any amount of calm or ease in the mind? So continually inviting the mind to be aware of this body, this experience of embodiment right here, right now. Noticing the calm and the stability when it arises. Maybe noticing a lightness that comes with any amount of stability and calm. A little bit of pleasure, subtle pleasure. This mind knowing this experience right here, right now, as it is, clearly knowing this experience. It's like this right now. The mind is like this, the body is like this. This is how it is right now. Maybe for the last minute or so of this practice, we can invite the mind to soften and widen, however you perceive that. But just relaxing, softening, and just allowing it to open, feeling a sense of spaciousness. Maybe even sensing that the body of the boundary isn't, or the boundary of the body isn't a set thing, that you can feel the air that comes in contact with the skin, and that's connected with the air in the room you're in. So there's an openness or a spaciousness that's not separate from your body. And just notice how the mind responds to this sensation or this invitation to experience openness. Softening, widening, openness. Noticing how the mind responds. Maybe it relaxes. Maybe it tightens up because you can't sense what this openness thing is. Just noticing how it is when we invite openness, relaxation, widening. You can invite the mind to be clear and open and spacious. It's not a pushing it, but it's just an invitation to see if it's there in any amount, to give us more ease, more space. Just testing. The mind is like this right now. So bringing the awareness back into the body, groundedness, the spaciousness of wherever you are practicing. Bringing awareness back gently. And just reflect on your meditation experience. If there's anything you learned, if there's anything you became aware of. Not judging, just noticing. So, concludes the meditation. We'll transition into maybe a little bit of teaching and then some discussion. So the teaching that I wanted to share today is from the Mahayana tradition, which I don't know how much we really have talked about the difference between Mahayana and Theravada, but the Theravada is the rituals that we do here, the chanting, a lot of that is out of the Theravada tradition. And the Mahayana tradition, so Zen is an example of a Mahayana tradition. And there's a lot of, it's interesting, Buddhism is just like any other spiritual path. There's different schools and everybody, has their own way of practicing, and that's a good thing for us because not one size fits all, especially in our Western culture. So it's nice to know about different traditions and find which things work best for us and our individual minds, because we're all different. And so the Mahayana tradition, one of the distinguishing things between that and, say, the Theravada is an emphasis on what's the concept of a bodhisattva. And this word may or may not be new to you, but bodhisattva, bodhi means awakened, and sattva is a being. So it's just an awakened being. And the idea of the bodhisattva is that the awakened being, before this being would go to full enlightenment and basically not be reborn, they want to save all beings. So their practice, the bodhisattva idea, is to practice for the awakening of all beings. And so I'm not going to become fully awakened until all beings are fully awakened. And so the idea of the bodhisattva is to cultivate an awakened mind that has the clarity and the stability and the knowledge to really understand the path of awakening, but also the open-heartedness and compassion to share that with other beings. And the bodhisattva ideal isn't only in Mahayana. The Theravada tradition has that as well. The Buddha was a bodhisattva in his previous lives before he became a Buddha. But it's just emphasized more in the Mahayana tradition. But I think when we do this reflection on well-being, it's kind of a bodhisattva ideal, right? It's may all beings abide in well-being, may we be freedom from affliction and anxiety. So this reflection of that we ourselves and that all beings would be free from suffering, it's an ideal in all the Buddhist traditions, but just emphasized more as a path in the Mahayana. And in the Mahayana tradition, the way to develop this bodhicitta, which is the awakened mind, bodhi is awakened and chitta is mind, is through the practice of the paramitas. And in the Theravada tradition, we call them the paramis. And in Theravada, there's 10 of them, and in the Mahayana, there's 6. So these are qualities or practices that we do to try to develop the mind so that it can be stable and wise, but also open-hearted and compassionate. So these characteristics that we try to develop are generosity, and it's enthusiasm, it's patience, and it's also discipline. So those are kind of the mental qualities that we're trying to cultivate. And we also cultivate meditation practices and wisdom or insight, as that's the 5th and 6th of the paramis. So these are the ones that are trying to cultivate to develop the mind of bodhicitta. And there's, again, lots of different trainings in how to do this around the paramis. And one of the most loved, well, I don't know if it's most loved, but one of the really great teachers in the Mahayana tradition was a sage named Shantideva, and he lived about 1200 years ago in India. And he was great. He was kind of the bad boy of the monastery where he was studying. He was at like this great university, and all the other monks there didn't like him because they didn't think he was working very hard, because he worked hard all night and people wouldn't see him ever doing anything. And so they decided to humiliate him and ask him to give a teaching, knowing that he'd fall flat on his face and hopefully leave in disgrace. Well, so they invited him to do this teaching, and so he agreed to do it. And they said, well, do you want to have an old teaching, or do you want to hear something new? And they go, well, let's hear something new. So what he shared with them as what's called the path of the Bodhisattva, which were the teachings that he wrote down for himself of how to be a Bodhisattva, like how to use, how to develop these paramitas in order to be able to have an awakened mind and help all beings. And so his teachings, Pema Chodron, who a lot of you know, this book may be in your library even, but Pema Chodron, who's in the Tibetan tradition, took his teachings and wrote a commentary in this book called No Time to Lose. And I chose this today because I'm kind of feeling in this whole situation between the virus situation, the lockdown that we're all in, and just the insanity of the social issues that have been going on. It just seems like we all have no time to lose to try to be more awakened. So I was drawn to this book, and her reflections on these teachings, and his language is a little, it's 1,200 years old. Some of the way he writes is a little weird, for our times, and maybe some of the imaging that he uses is relevant to his time. And she kind of brings it back and explains the context of it so we can understand it. And what I thought I'd share today are just two of the teachings that come out of the mental discipline chapter. So again, discipline is we're training the mind. And so as we talk about all the time, that we really need to train the mind in order, because it wants to go crazy all the time. That's been our cultural conditioning, is to have the mind want to go crazy, wanting everything and disliking other people. So we're trying to train to tame it. So I'll just share two of the teachings from that chapter on training the mind, again, using the paramis. So the first verse that I'll share, verse 5.12, goes like this. And so I'll read it and then kind of bring it back into modern terms. The hostile multitudes are vast as space. What chance is there that all should be subdued? But let this angry mind be overthrown, and every foe is then and there destroyed. So I'll read it again and kind of talk about it a little bit. So the hostile multitudes are vast as space. And just think about, if you've been watching the news, there's a lot of social upheaval going on right now. People are angry, on both sides, all sides. Everybody just seems to be all revved up. So the hostile multitudes are vast as space. They cover the whole world. What chance is there that all should be subdued? What are the odds everybody's going to chill out? Let but this angry mind be overthrown. So let this angry mind be overthrown, and every foe is then and there destroyed. So basically, if this mind right here, right now, is calmed down, the angry mind is overthrown, so we can get control of our angry mind, then every foe is then and there destroyed. So anybody that comes into our life with hostility, or even seeing the hostility just looking on the news, if we can calm down our angry mind, then we don't have to be destroyed by all these other people who are, going crazy. So all of those angry other people are really, they're not affecting us, and we can be there and be present in a calm, stable way with some wisdom. And so the parami that's being encouraged here is the patience, the discipline to have a mind that's stable and not getting revved up by anger. And in that way, we can be calm, and that can allow others around us to chill out, and hopefully that will continue to spread on. So that's the first teaching, and it just felt really relevant for the world today. And you probably see this in action where you are in the facilities. When one person gets revved up, then everybody gets revved up. And it's like, can we be that one calm mind that starts to turn the energy in a different direction? So the other teaching, and this one's pretty famous, well, if you're a Buddhist geek like I am. So the next one is kind of on a different topic, but related. It goes like this. 513 reads, "To cover all the earth with sheets of hide, where could such amounts of skin be found? but simply wrap some leather around your feet, and it's as if the whole earth had been covered. So to cover all the earth with sheets of hide, where could such amounts of skin be found? So the idea is the world, walking around in the world, especially in that time, they were all barefoot. There's hot sand, there's sharp rocks, there's thorns. Now we have broken glass and nails, whatever. If you're walking around in the world, it's a painful place. And so should we cover the whole earth with sheets of hide? We can cover the world in leather, and then we can walk around and we won't get pierced by all these thorns and broken glass and so forth. But how could you ever find that much leather to cover the world in hide? But if we simply wrap some leather around our feet, if we put on shoes, it's as if the whole earth had been covered. So the idea here is if we can protect our mind through practicing these paramis and having a stable mind, a wise mind, that's our shoes that allow us to go out in the world and not have our, have our feet be blistered by the heat and not by, pierced by sharp objects. So, and the same can be true for the emotions. We can be out there in the world. The world is a dangerous place. There's all kinds of crazy stuff coming at us. There's dangers. But if we can take care of our own mind, then it can be stable, wise, and unaffected by what's going on. And then we'll have the clarity to be able to act in the world, not be in pain, and be able to then be able to be of assistance to others. So it's kind of like the oxygen mask in a plane. You first put on your own mask before you help somebody else. And so that's the idea here, is we can have a stable mind, and through that stability and our wisdom, by seeing things as they are, and an open heart and compassion, we can be present for other beings as bodhisattvas with our awakened mind. So those are the teachings I thought I'd share. And so Ms. Shepherd, I was just wondering, if you have any thoughts about these, or if you can relate to them.
Absolutely beautiful teachings. Thank you, Jenny. Ms. Ross. So both of them really speak to what seems so central in this practice, which is that what it's asking of us is that we take responsibility for our own lives. It's pointing out that it's impossible for us to take responsibility for anyone else's life, that as much as we care about other people, love them, would like to be of help, that in fact, we can do some things, but fundamentally, people need to take care of themselves. As much as we wish we could help them, we often can't. It's a lesson we learn over and over as a parent, that when children are young, of course we can care for them and protect them, but as they grow, and as certainly as they become young adults and full adults, their decisions, their choices, their life is their own. And our life is our own. And that if we are interested in awakening in peace, in kindness, in justice, in generosity, in living in the world in a way that is for the benefit of ourselves and others, then the way we do that is by starting with ourselves. That it all starts right here. And it ends right here too. That everything we do, that we have control only in this body and mind. But that we do have control in this body and mind, and that what we do makes an enormous difference. I never get calls on that phone, except today. And these paramis that Ms. Ross shared are sort of the way that we can begin to really develop a heart and mind that is able to take care of ourselves and others. So I quickly went to get the Theravada list of 10, because it's very similar, but sort of more expanded than the Mahayana one. And the Theravada 10 are, and some of you, I've actually given sets of Parami cards. Some of you may still have those, that list these 10 qualities, because they are really, really valuable qualities to keep in mind. So they are virtue, or the Pali word is sila, translated variously: virtue, morality, goodness, paying attention to what we do, noticing what we do has a big impact. Then generosity, giving, open-heartedness is another way I like to think of it, dana in Pali. Then renunciation, letting go, nekkhamma in Pali. So the word renunciation in English has sort of a harsh sense, but it's not really what it's about in this practice. It's more about recognizing that there are things we really no longer need to hold on to, and recognizing that doing so is actually freeing, that it opens our lives. It's a practice of simplifying life, reducing complexity, living with simplicity. Then discernment, panya, or wisdom, translated in variously, but recognizing the truth of how the world really is. Then energy, recognizing that this is not so easy a path, that taking responsibility for our own life isn't always easy, that it requires us to put forth, to rise up, is sometimes the way teachers talk about it. It inspires us to rise up, to be our very best sense, our very best person, to bring into the world that which we feel the world needs. And at times like this, that which we sometimes feel is not very present in the world. That's why people go out in the streets to say, no, I don't agree with what's happening. I want a world where people are treated with fairness, with kindness, with equity. That takes energy. And that's one of the paramis, to bring forth that sort of energy. Then patience, huge practice, very important. Recognizing how frequently we jump too quickly to respond to things that really don't need our response. That actually our response harms the situation rather than helping the situation. Then truthfulness, such an important one. The Buddha said that he had 2 requirements for someone wanting to study with him, wanting to be a student under him. One was morality, virtue, to live according to the precepts. And the second was truthfulness, to be honest, to tell the truth, to be interested in seeing the truth and speaking the truth, and restraining ourselves, refraining from speaking until we had some confidence that what we were saying was truthful. And this applies equally internally to our own minds, that the way I see it most often for myself is being willing to be really honest with myself. Honest with myself about where maybe there wasn't some energy put forth and there could have been, but also honest with myself about where maybe there was some harshness that wasn't necessary. There was some unkindness towards myself that wasn't necessary. But also noticing where maybe there was some laziness. Maybe I could have done more. Maybe I could have acted more kindly. Not to beat ourselves up, but to stay on the path, to refine our actions with clarity. Then determination, resolve, adhitthana in Pali. Knowing that an initial burst of energy is needed and an initial patience, but then we have to keep at it. That this life, living a life of kindness and wisdom, is a long-term effort. It takes time. It takes continuous, determined energy, effort, patience, wisdom. We're not doing it for, an hour or a day or a week, that this is a commitment we make to ourselves long term. And then metta, loving kindness, goodwill. Really knowing that all of us want to be treated with kindness, treated with goodwill. Knowing what a difference that makes when someone responds to us that way. Even when we've made a mistake, even when we've done poorly, when we've acted in ways we later regret or apologize for. To have the kindness of being treated with goodwill doesn't mean we ignore bad behavior or we don't speak to it, but our intention is not harm. And then finally, as often these lists end with equanimity, recognizing that there are times and situations where things really are out of our control. And in those situations, we need to respond with calm. Ms. Ross talked about calm as an important quality of these paramis. One of the stories that I've heard often reflected by teachers is from the time of the Vietnam War, when that area of the world, all of Southeast Asia, was sort of in chaos, and bombs and mines. It was a very difficult time. And so people were moving around a lot. There were enormous numbers of refugees trying to escape the horrors of the war. And the story is often told that just as there are refugees now and boats just jammed with people, there were then as well. And it said that in these refugee boats that were, just little canoes almost, just an open boat. It was not a covered boat at all. And there would be, not an inch of space between the people on this boat. Many, many people trying to flee the country, often fleeing Vietnam, trying to get to Thailand or just get away, that many people would die on these boats. But they found that the boats that were most successful in making the voyage, making the journey from one land to another, were the boats that had just one calm person. Because that one calm person on the boat was able to help maintain calm with others. That if they could sustain their equanimity, their stability, their patience, their determination, their energy, all of these paramis, their kindness, their goodwill to everyone else on the boat, rather than competing who was going to get the space, who was going to get the food, who was going to get the water. When that one person could live basically in accord with these paramis and establish a sense of calm, that calm spread, that other people rose up and also acted in that way. And the result was that more people on that boat were able to survive. If everyone on the boat lost those abilities, people died. People ended up starving or fighting or falling overboard. So recognizing this comes back to the responsibility for ourselves, for our own actions. Recognizing that what we do makes a difference. It makes a huge difference for us, but it also makes a difference for others. That others, we learn from each other. We follow each other. We know that. Think back to your own life. You know that when you're around someone who's making bad decisions, it's really hard not to do it too. And when we're around people who are making good decisions, who are inspiring to us, who are kind to us, who are drawing us to be our own best person, it's so much easier for us to do that. There's one more story, but maybe I'll leave it for that for now. And maybe before I let Ms. Ross have we can have a conversation together. just to remember it's not that these are ideals that we like cling to. These are contemplations, these are reflections that we consider. It's not that we read them in a book and we memorize the list. It's that we bring them into our own heart, that we consider them in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment, real-life experience. And for me, what is most helpful is that when I notice I'm going to blaming, or I'm going to feeling worried about, am I getting what I want? Or when I'm going to anger or ill will, to use that as a flag, as a uh-oh, as a warning, and then to reflect, oh, what am I forgetting? What am I where is this going to lead? where is this going to take me? And is it to a place where my heart can be open and at ease? Or is it to a place that's going to make me feel more and more constricted and tight and afraid and alone? Because what these paramis do is they bring us to a place where the heart opens, where we feel more and more connected, more and more safe. That these are a true place of safety, a place where our heart can be at ease, rather than a place where our heart is clinging and grasping and scared. So maybe that's plenty.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when I'm working with these, that was like in the guided meditation. That's partly why at the end, like just notice if there's any openness, like we're trying to train ourselves not just to beat ourselves up when we can't stay with the breath or the body in our meditation, but we're trying to train ourselves to notice when the heart is light, and practicing with these paramis is what leads to lightness in heart and mind. It makes us feel better. They're not shoulds. They're really good ideas that when we notice that they actually work, like we don't have to make ourselves follow. We just do it, Just like if we really notice what brings us suffering, when we pay attention, we let go of it. We just stop, So that's our training, and to not have it be heavy. But the reason we do mindfulness is so that we learn to pay attention to what's working and what's not working. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So simple to say and so hard to do.
And I think, Jenny, Miss Ross used the word training, and we've talked about the precepts when we've been there in person, and thinking about them as trainings too. That's what they are. They're trainings. Just like when anything you want to learn, you train it, you train in it, you practice in it because you want to. It's not a weight. It's not a must. It's, oh, I care about this. I want to do better. I've heard this is the way to do it, so I'm going to train in that way. That's what these are too. They're trainings. We take them on because we want to do this. We know it is for our own well-being. It's like using an umbrella in the rain. Nobody forces me to use an umbrella. I want to use an umbrella. It helps me. That's what these are. These help us. They're not shoulds. Watch, just as Ms. Ross said, watch a tendency to make them into punishments, shoulds. That's not at all what they're about. They're about helping ourselves. How do I learn? How do I be the person that makes me happy?
What more needs to be said?
It's not easy, but when people on retreats and things, people always say, "But this isn't easy." And my response is always, "It's true, it's not easy, but to me, suffering is so much harder. Suffering is really not easy. Suffering hurts so much. So to find a way that maybe takes us away from that, it's not easy, but to me, it's way easier than what I used to do." So we're just very glad to have been with you. I'm very glad to be with my friend Ms. Ross and hear her wise teachings. I'll let her say anything she wants to say.
Yeah, just hopefully this, it's when we're alone like this, it's really hard to keep motivated to practice. I know I find that. And so hopefully these sessions are, remind us that we are all doing this, that there are other people trying to do this. We're not weird and we're not doing this in a vacuum, and hopefully that inspires you. And I just know I hold all of you in my heart and my mind, remembering that you're there practicing in very difficult situation, and just hoping that, we may all be able to see each other, sometime in the near future. But until then, thank you for your practice.
Thank you. And we really do inspire each other. I mean, all of you inspire me so much. And lately, I have been watching a lot of news, and there are so many very inspiring people I am seeing on the news. Mayors all over the city that I never would have heard from, who are, out there and doing things and changing, trying to improve the way the world has been, the way this country has been. And it is truly inspiring to see many, many young people, people doing amazing things that at an age when I was not doing much at all. So very inspiring to allow ourselves to be inspired by one another, by all of you, by your friends there in prison with you, and by anyone you see around you or on the television or you hear of or read of, that lets you lift your heart up. Let your heart be lifted up. That's a good thing. So let's do our closing to share the merit of all we've done together today. So may the merit of our practice today and every day support and nourish us. May we feel inner wealth so that we can practice the joy of giving. May we know that true wealth is internal, not material. May we always offer goodwill, knowing we cannot control the course of life, suffering, or death. May we see our own limits with compassion, just as we offer compassion to others. May our practice train this heart in clarity, kindness, and wisdom. And may all beings everywhere, not one left out, be well, be safe, and be free from suffering. So take care, be well. If all beings were truly free from suffering, some of the horrors of the earth and the world wouldn't happen. So let's hope many more people are able to be there, to know the path to suffering and the path out of suffering. So take care. We'll hope to see you very soon.